Going live.
Okay, sir.
Good evening, everyone. This is Pradeep, Ambassador of Change from GETI, the Global Education and Training Institute of Lucknow. We are the leading institute for training teachers and principals all over India. And we have many in-service and pre-service programs. For more information on this, please go to 740-840-1000. Right now, you are on a disruptive education platform provided to us by our mentor, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. On this platform, we have met with and interacted with more than 1,300 educators from India and all over the world. And this evening, we have for you Professor B. Sairam Patnaik. He's from the Wolaita Sodo University in Wolaita, Sodo, Ethiopia, East Africa. He is from the Department of Biology and Aquatic Studies. He has a BSc, an MSc, and a PhD, and 24 years of teaching experience and 12 years of research experience. He's been in Ethiopia since 2013 and has released 17 research papers. He has written two books, Basics of
Biosciences.
Biosciences and Language of Zoology, and he's working on Jantu Shastra in Telugu. He has attended 14 national and international presentations he has made. Currently, he's working on a mega project in Ethiopia, and he has participated in 11 uh, academic achievements. He has won several awards. The Rashtriya Vidya Gaurav Puraskar for Educational Excellence by the Indian Solidarity Council, New Delhi, India. Then he has been awarded the sorry, sir, just a minute. The International Vidya Rathan Gold Medal and the Bharatiya Vidya Shiromani Award for Outstanding Achievements in the Field of Education by the International Business Council. And he has many curricular activities, being a youth leader of the Sri Satya Sai Seva organization, with which he is very closely associated with in Orissa and in Andhra Pradesh. So welcome, sir. And he will be speaking to us on the dynamics of Indian education from the ancient times to the modern era and emerging trends, perspectives, and human values. So good evening, everybody, and welcome, sir, for being with us. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to all of you. My host, Mr. Pradeep Mal, especially I'm thankful to you, sir, for giving us this opportunity. My dear listeners from all over the globe, indeed, it's a great privilege and opportunity for me to address all of you this evening with a title much familiar to you, but maybe with a different perception. Whatever I'm speaking today is nothing but what my teacher and elders taught me from my childhood, as well as what I learned and observed as a teacher for last 25 years. If you find anything good in this talk, take them as noble things that I learned and practiced during my lifetime. At the same time, if you find something unworthy, it is completely due to my ignorance and stupidity. Intention of my talk is not to hurt anybody, rather to bring awareness in true sense. As you know, my topic today is on the dynamics of Indian education from ancient times to modern age. I will try my level best to justify it. We have to understand that what exactly is education. Education is basically for gaining knowledge as well as acquiring consciousness for doing something specific which nobody has done before or previously, as if reserved only for us to perform. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Sri Krishna defines knowledge as Nahi Gyanena Sadrusham Pavitram Miha Vidyate Tatsvayam Yoga Samsiddham Kalenatmani Vindati. There is Nothing greater and sacred than knowledge in this universe. So, our basic concern is how to define education then. Most of us define education as that which helps us in gaining knowledge for a proper living. Now the question emerges in our mind, what kind of knowledge we have to acquire for a proper living? Whether it is an awareness or simple training, learning, or getting literacy. Here I would like to ask you three classic questions. Are we really educated? Whether the aim of education is truly fulfilled? And whether education is only for earning and getting livelihood? I know most of will be agree with the answer which I make out. Yes, my dear friends, it's true. We are literates but not educated. We have good awareness but no consciousness. We have talent without knowledge, and of course skill devoid of wisdom. Then tell me, what is education? For what purpose education is meant? And who really are educated people? Let us try to open the Pandora box to unearth the solutions for each of these one by one. Let me discuss first what is education. Literally, the word education is derived from the Latin word educatio or eductio, meaning upbringing, rearing, or breeding. It is the modus operandi by means of which upbringing of a generation is to be made. Kraft in 1984 described two different routes for education. The first one is educator and the second one is educator. Technically, educator, educare, means molding and proper training, while educere, educator, stands for leading the people for a good purpose. In nutshell, education is preparation of a generation through searching solution to various challenges by means of thinking, creating, and questioning to develop the individual as an ideal citizen. Every human being getting birth on this earth has some purpose to do, some activity to perform. Education and experience makes him mature enough to realize the basic purpose of his or her life. No human is evil or good by his birth, but the environment and circumstances in which he lives, the company with whom he associates, the practices he transmits out of his training, and the way he leads his life decides the fate of the individual. One day or the other, he has to realize the good or bad within him by putting various queries, questions to himself by the fundamentals of life: what, why, and how. Aim of education. Nelson Mandela described education as the most powerful weapon which you can change for the world, which we can use to change the entire world also. Education is the substance that constructs an individual, his thoughts, ideology, and values. It is not the answer to a question, rather, it is the answer to all the questions in life. It gives freedom, magnanimity, understanding, and unending happiness. Hence, education should be for life, not for a materialistic living. Sri Satya Sai Baba replaced the term education with educator and explained the true nature of education as manifestation of latent human values and translate them into action. One of the Chinese maxims narrates the importance of education by saying, if you are if you are planning for a year, sow rice. If you are planning for a decade, plant trees. If you are planning for a lifetime, educate people. Hence, people should have a proper education for upholding the values for upcoming generations. Education should apprehend on individual strengths as well as weaknesses. Discrimination between good and bad. Good means Shreya and bad means Preya. Distinguishes a line between truth, Satya, and untruth, the Asatya. It should reflect five aspects in the personality of any person: physical, mental, social, ethical, and behavioral. Ethical can also be correlated with moral, and behavioral is nothing but attitudinal. It should imbibe the basic features of human values, unity in diversity, and the concept of I to we. Many of my listeners may feel tired to hear the same concept repeatedly for once and again. But alas, what can I do? Because education in India and for India is something which needs a great debate. India, from prehistoric period, has a different track record in its mode of teaching learning process, format of curriculum, and training methods. India was the teacher of teachers, place of origin for several great sciences, pioneer in several great theories, and center of excellence from time immemorial. All these you know already. Education in India was, is, and will be for universal peace, prosperity, and happiness rather than for a temporary and short term benefits. What should be the aim of education? And how the aims of the education can be fulfilled, in what way it can uplift the inner talent of an individual, how education could be used for betterment of society. These are some of the questions which very often ponder me. I recall here a letter being written by a captive of Hitler's force found in Nazi concentration camp after the Second World War. The letter is addressed to all the teachers in the world, a waking call for all of us. Please listen it to carefully. The content of the letter may be helpful to us for apprising and understanding the aim of our education system. Dear teachers, I am a survivor of a concentration camp. My eyes saw what no man should witness. Gas chambers built by gas chambers built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians, infants killed by trained nurses, women and babies being shot and burnt by high school and college graduates. So I am suspicious of education. I am suspicious of education. See how he is thinking. My request is help your students to become human. Your efforts must never produce learned monsters, skilled psychopaths, and educated illiterates. Reading, writing, arithmetics are important only if they serve towards making our children more human. This message has enlightened our ideas towards education with a different perception. The agony of every person is towards developing humanity and good attitude. What he mentioned decades ago is still persisting in the wildest form. Recently, if you had gone through the newspapers, you can find out several incidents of gun shooting in US and Europe, where students killed their own classmates. Incidents related to eve teasing, acid throwing on girls, suicides in the hostels, illegal activities such as drug trafficking become very much common in our colleges and universities. These are some of the outputs which we can correlate with improper civilization, values, and education. The man who wrote this letter may not be a great educationalist, but really a great human being. Education without human values, character building, and gratefulness to the society, in my opinion, is of no use. Here, I would like to emphasize the role of parents too, which has remarkably changed during all these years. Parents simply throw the blame onto the teachers and education environments for such a dreadful behavior, but least bother to guide appropriately in their home. We must remember here that home is the first school for every human being. It's time. It's time to think once again the part to be played by each one of us and how much we are responsible in this sacred process of man making. That most aim of education should be to make a man human and to excel humanity within. Without the fundamental values of humanity and character building, there is no use of education. It is similar to a training given to a tiger in a circus or to a snake by a charmer. Can we call such obedient or learned tiger and snake as educated or trained? In ancient India, however, the education was quite different and unique, where the basic aim was only character building. As the Vedic saying goes, Vidya Dadati Vinayam, the end of education is character. The entire ancient system of education in India was value based and teacher oriented, inhabited in deep forests. The Gurukula system of education used to emphasize primarily on training by highly experienced mentors to supervise the overall development of pupil on various subjects reflecting their character. The curriculum basically consists of literary excellences from Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, Darshanas, Puranas, and ethics, with equivalent importance to physical and mental education, politics, economics, history, medicine, mathematics, and astronomy. The education used to focus on practical knowledge rather than theoretical, and it is used to be related to various types of things. Classrooms are built in forests, which provide a pleasant study environment to the students. They were trained to shape their life in a way so that they can withstand any challenge in any condition in their life. There was freedom and no pressure laid on students related to studies so that they can learn effectively. Here you have to remember there was freedom in the meaning there was no interference either by the state nor by the individuals so that the education pattern or the system or the learning process can be hampered. There was a great participation of women during the Vedic period, and there were great scholars like Devi Arundhati, Anasuya, Maitre, Garga, and so on. Women in ancient India, although not encouraged, but never denied for learning process. There were great centers of excellence such as Takshashila, Nalanda, Vikramashila, where thousands of students from several countries used to study various types of courses. Come to the medieval India. What was happening in the medieval India? With the onset of Islamic invasion and expansion of Muslim culture, the Indian cultural ethos, ancient education system got diminished and restricted to certain Hindu kingdoms and their territories. That too also significantly, basically restricted to this art of what is that is called as politics, warfare, and diplomacy. The Persians, Arabs, and the Turks introduced new customs, cultures, and institutions, primarily focusing upon Islamic studies, calligraphy, and grammar, with little bit knowledge on arithmetics. Medieval education was based on religious aspects like recitation of Quran or learning towards the different types of subjects related to Islamic studies because it was the dominant religion during that period. And there was absolutely no education for women. And if at all it existed, and that was also for negligible way. Come to the modern education. The Industrial Revolution, Renaissance, and cultural reforms in Europe transformed the entire concept of education with the growth of new industries, changing scientific thoughts and technologies. Lifestyles of human beings changed a lot. In turn, bringing change to the educational structure, pattern, and standards. With the arrival of Europeans, the modern era of education began in India, primarily for the expansion of Christianity, later for preparing clerks in their offices to have knowledge on English. Technological improvement has boosted the role of science and technology, in turn, played an important role in the economics and social dynamics of our nation. One of the most excellent things in modern education is towards developing a pluralistic and multicultural society. A pluralistic society is a diverse one where the people believe all kinds of things and tolerate each other's beliefs. Multiculturalism refers to the coexistence of various religions, ethnic and cultural groups within a society, including the minority groups. The second best thing found in the modern era is education for all, irrespective of caste, color, creed, religion, and gender. The equal participation of women is one of the prominent components. Absolutely, you will not found in both ancient as well as medieval periods. Along with several good elements in modern education, it is also filled with a numerous number of drawbacks and lacunas. The changing lifestyle in human has contributed for the change in mindset, resulting in more comforts, lavishness, aristocracy, compelling more greed for money, dishonesty, and corruption. Education is also commercialized and become more costly affair. The curriculum and orientation has also more inclined towards financial gains, economic development, social status, and luxuries in life, but least bothered for basic values such as honesty, morality, and ideology. And the result of which today we have numerous number of old age homes, orphanages, and mental hospitals. The increase in cases related to child abuses, atrocities on women, growing intolerance, and pornography are few examples of improper upbringing and learning. Political and bureaucratic interference has further degraded the educational parameters and learning indices, creating imbalance in socio-economic framework, communal harmony, and policy matters. Ironically, the way the word democracy and secularism misused in India was never observed before in any country, especially in the educational sector. Today's education is for living, not for life. It fills the stomach but starves the heart. It delights the mind but gives dissatisfaction to soul. The present education is not complete like a full moon, instead imperfect like a half crescent. We have today literates with BA degrees, bad, and MA degrees with mad, guys moving around us without values and ethos. That's why we need an integrated education, an education that can fill the gap, a holistic, complete, value based education containing both scientific and ethical training for overall development. The objective of modern education should be to inculcate values such as culture, honesty, humility, and humanity in students, along with equality and secularism, as well as social and environmental responsibilities besides the formal education. Sorry. We'll come to the value education. What exactly is value education? My dear listeners, the most precious thing on this earth is the life itself. Jantunam narajanma durlabha. Among the living organisms, more precious is the human birth. And person with proper education and humane character is the most valued embodiment of divinity, and that should be the basic theme of value education. Today, every parent wants to provide the best education to children, which is not just confined to the books, but that which goes beyond. The parents desire a holistic development of their children, as that is essential to edge in the global scenario. That's why parents are focusing on extracurricular activities and value education along with academics, which is not just related to books only or academics only. Value based education aims at training the students to face the outer world. It is a process of overall personality development in the students. It includes character development, personality development, citizenship development, and spiritual development. Value education creates a strong relationship between students and teachers. It gives a positive direction to the students to shape their future and even helps them to know the purpose of their life. It teaches them the best way to live that can be beneficial to individuals as well as the people around him. Some people think that personality is an inborn character and which cannot be developed. However, this is not true. A proper training can bring out a radical change in the personality of a child. It can bring a lot of change in the attitude, perception, and behavior that enable the students to become more responsible, cordial, to handle any situation in their life with maturity. Many people fear to utter the word spiritual. I know. And I believe that there are several reasons for this. They fear it may create a conservational or fundamental sticker upon them. It is due to their ignorance and improper understanding of spirituality and spiritual values. Spirituality in true sense does not mean studies on particular religion or their rituals. Rather, it is something that can mold life in a better way, to lead life in the pathway of humanity. Spirituality is a sacred way of living and makes somebody live peacefully. In my opinion, Indian spiritual values do not mean religious fundamentalism or orthodox thinking. Rather, it's a pathway of life. It is similar to a classroom where students are supposed to work their own in fear of a teacher. Spirituality is also a school where God is the teacher who corrects the students to make their life worthy and purposeful. This is the message what imparted to us by our great culture, We call it the great Indian culture. Please do not align the spiritual values with any religion because it is beyond all these minute aspects. Thus, the value education is learning about self and wisdom of life in a systematic and a scientific way through formal education. According to C.V. Good, value education is the aggregate of all the process by means of which a person develops abilities and other forms of behavior of the positive values in the society in which he lives. Value-based education aims at training the student to face the outer world with the right perception, attitude, and positive thinking. Sri Satya Sai Baba is one of the greatest thinkers and path makers in initiating a new type of education called Education in Human Values or EHV, where both Gurukula and modern education are integrated, clustered together to make it more scientific and human in nature. The Education in Human Values, EHV, is not a metaphor, rather an action-oriented program designed to inculcate and nurture one's holistic potential and innate human goodness related to the character development. The education in human values can be emphasized by three things: head, heart, and hand. All the three words beginning with the English letter H. Here, head stands for good thoughts. Heart stands for transformation by practice. And hands for serving the society. Hence, it is not EHV, rather a phenomenon of 3HV. Simply, the aim of education in human values is be good, see good, and do good. Several great scholars also contributed a lot to have such framework based on value education in India. Maharshi Dayananda Saraswati, Maharshi Aravinda, Rabindranath Tagore, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Bhai Ramakrishna Mission are few such personalities who founded such organizations in this regard. The purpose of education in human values is intended to inculcate respect for qualities such as truth, righteousness, love, peace, and non-violence. It is an educational tool designed to develop positive values in the young minds, to make them fit for life instead of ordinary living. The total essence of EHV can be summarized by simple explanation in a practical way. Here I am giving a full definition of education for your better understanding. Education, EDUCATION. E stands for enthusiasm to serve the society. D stands for discrimination between good and bad. U, unity within thought, action, and word. C, character building. A, acceptance to any challenge at any circumstances. T, transformation from individual to universal. I, intuition or inward journey to discover one's own strengths. O, obedience for every obligation. And N, nationalism, that is always the thought of nation first and we the next. These are the 9 precious gems which can change the total character of our education if practiced in a proper sense. If these letters are followed in its true sense, it can transform every one of us from man to a better human being. I remember a story related to Sir C.V. Raman in this context. After receiving the Nobel Prize for his Raman effect, Sir C.V. Raman wanted to establish a research institute in India. He conducted an entrance exam in physics and mathematics, in which only 10 students get selected. Raman ordered his secretary to pay for the expenses towards traveling charges for unsuccessful candidates to return home. When Raman was coming back from office, he saw a failed candidate waiting for him and called him aside to inquire the reason. The candidate replied, "Sir, I was anxious to meet you because I may not get an opportunity to see a Nobel laureate like you once again. Moreover, your secretary paid more than what my actual ticket is." Saying so, he returned the balance amount. Raman became so emotional and a feeling that changed his heart and called his secretary to take the boy into the laboratory for training. The secretary well reported Raman that the boy has failed in mathematics test. Raman simply smiled and replied, "My dear, he may have failed in mathematics test, but passed in his character test. Character is more important than science. Hence, politics without principles, science without humanity, commerce without morality, and education without character is not only useless but positively dangerous for the society. What is happening now? Let me discuss the present status also. I remember during our student period what was happening. During our student period, I recall we used to have books with beautiful stories and illustrations reflecting our people, culture, traditions taken from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Panchatantra. Life stories of great scholars, scientists, reformers, and philosophers, not only belonging to India but also from Western world, were there in the part of the curriculum. The books were produced and written by the authors in a simple language and ordinary way, so that hardly we find them verbose, complicated, and confusing, including the subjects mathematics and science. But it gives me so much pain today to express regarding the present scenario. Most of the books we find now are full of perplexity and ambiguity. I beg excuse here to all of you for saying so, but the reality is that the books which are now prepared by NCERT and CBSE are not up to the standards, rather are full of confusion and complexity. Forget about the students, even for the teachers also, these books feel difficult to interpret and understand. We should keep it in mind that the textbooks as well as study materials which we are preparing for our students should be user friendly, simple, and self-explanatory, with special emphasis on confidence building, inclusiveness, and innovative thinking. Sorry to say, sometimes it gives me the impression that the authors and editors are preparing the books as if they want to exhibit their own talent and impose it onto the students. My intention here is not to criticize the authors and editorial board members. Please don't think like that. Rather, to bring awareness to all of you in this regard, so that millions of our students having a rural background and having some sort of less understanding of the subjects can also get benefited. Undoubtedly, India is a secular country with equal participation of people from all communities, castes, and religions in beholding the national traditions, culture, and ethos. However, in the name of secularism, we are going out of our own culture, the core of our civilization. What type of secularism is this? I don't know, which prevents us to talk of our own traditions, our history, and our great ancestors. Our national ethos, scientific contributions, sculpture, art, and history should be incorporated at various levels of learning to make the students know the greatness of our culture. Indian culture is not religion based, rather it is scientific and purely traditional in nature. Education in our country needs to be revitalized up to the grassroots level. Instead of directing the pathway of education from economics, comfortable living, and how to live, we have to emphasize on emotions, purpose of life, and why to live. Human is lost in the process of commercialization, and education today is standing at crossroads of humanity. That is why when the National Curriculum for Teacher Education was designed, its curriculum for teachers in 2009, the theme of the document was towards preparing professional and human teachers. Just let me repeat it. Towards preparing professional and human teachers. This is the theme when the document was prepared in 2009. These days, there is a lot of discussion on values, corruption, violence, and inclusiveness. Unfortunately, what is lacking today is introspection and self-realization. Recently, the National Education Policy, NEP 2020, revamped the whole education system in schools and higher education institutes across the country to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, along with lifelong learning opportunities. While framing the NEP, the government should have focused not only on temporary gains such as employment and poverty eradication, but also on social aspects such as national integration, personality development, and community service. Although the NEP has features on Indian ethos and universal education, yet the vision how to implement them is lacking. Compared to other civilized nations, India has more youth and manpower. Proper education can play a significant role in making our youth ready for future generations' challenges, better role in increasing economic growth, providing skilled persons for boosting industrial development. It is also to be remembered here that the Indian education system is the largest, well known, and more scientific compared to any country in the world. But the only thing we have to remember here is that we must not overlook our national identity, our rich culture, and our Indian values. Every day, when we are going through the news channels, we are coming across various types of strikes, demonstrations, disturbances at different workplaces by workers, students, employees, as well as by general public. Mass killings in the name of religion, caste, community, politics, and genocide in the name of terrorism, Naxalism, and Maoism become common throughout the globe. The destructive and illegal practices of social platforms also has further destroyed the relationships, ethical values for monetary gains. Parents, media, and everybody speak a lot of negligence and immorality and blame the learning institutions and education system for failure. Beginning from the common man up to the political leaders, sing the same song in the identical voice for a change in our policies, systems, and standards. But unfortunately, nobody of us initiates steps for reformation because we wait somebody to do for us. This recalls me a beautiful story because all people want to escape from their responsibilities. I recall a story related to a small parrot that I heard during my childhood. The parrot story. The moral is nothing but don't speak without following. Now, there was a parrot moving here and there freely in a forest. One day it fell injured. I think the stories will make you understand the theme or the meaning or the purpose for which I am telling all these things. Please listen to the story. It's a very small story. The parrot was moving from one place to the other and one forest to the other freely. And one day it became wounded and injured and it fell in a hermitage or ashram. The sage of an ashram and the sage saw the bad condition of the bird and treated it to heal. Meanwhile, he taught the bird a beautiful song to learn. The song was, the hunter will come, will spread the net, will keep some grains. Oh, my dear bird, don't sit on it. Do not sit on it. Because the bird came hurt, the sage thought it's his responsibility to teach a small song so that it can implement in its life. And the song, as I told you, the hunter will come, will spread the net, will keep some grains. Oh, my dear bird, don't sit on it. Do not sit on it. The bird, while moving from one garden to the other, from one jungle to the other, was singing the same song, and all birds started learning it. The hunter became very angry and went to the sage, complaining for his song. The sage replied with a smile, my dear, the bird came hurt, and I felt it's my responsibility to help it, and I did it. Now it's your turn. You can do whatever you wish. Hunter returned back to his hinterland and spread the net, kept some food grains below it as usually. A small bird sitting on the tree saw the grains and came down onto the net, followed by one. The most remarkable thing to be noted here is that sitting up on the net, all the birds were singing the same song loudly taught by the sage. The hunter will come, will spread the net, will keep some grains. Oh, my dear bird, don't sit on it and do not sit on it. See, this is the situation of all of us. The story may be small, but it teaches a big lesson. We all are also similar to that small learned bird singing the song of reformation, alteration, rectification, and transformation. In our education policies, teaching methods, and standards, without involving ourselves in this sacred yajna. So, simply by speaking and narrating the problem is not the right way. Rather, we should be part of the solution, not the problem. Friends, when rest of the world was sinking in the darkness of ignorance, a spark of light enlightened the educational practices in ancient India by our great ancestors. They not only established a proper training for better living, but also devised methods to serve the society with deep gratitude. The oldest center of excellence and temple of learning, the University of Takshashila, flourished 2000 years back with 10,500 students. Learning 68 subjects is one of the silent witnesses of our great education system. The irony here is that although Indian sages and scholars contributed a lot in all disciplines of education, but unfortunately could not get the attention and reward which they deserve. For instance, Western scholars identify Aristotle commonly as the pioneer for most of the sciences existing today, whereas there were great scholars prior to Aristotle in India but could not get recognition. Herodotus is treated as father of history, but much before him, Vedavyasa wrote the great epic Mahabharata. Prior to Theophrastus, its Charaka in his Charaka Samhita described regarding 760 plants and their importance in pharmacology and medicine, but unfortunately could not be referred as father of botany. Similar is with Aryabhatta in space studies, Bhaskaracharya in mathematics, Varahamihira in astronomy. This is all due to the deliberate negligence of our own scholars and authors who felt inferior to describe so. It's time for all of us to wake up. As the Vedas declare, Uttishtita Prapya Vranya Bodhita. Arise and awake, as Swami Vivekananda also called us. We will lost, otherwise, we will lost in the realm of ambiguity, forgetting ourselves in the flood of ignorance, arrogance, and darkness. It's the clarion call to raise us from materialistic and temporary living to greater heights of metaphysical and universal life. We have to rethink of our policies, revitalize our basic concepts to uphold new spirit in our upcoming generations. India Watch is and will be the world power and world teacher, advocating for universal love, compassion, ethical values, and humanity. It was our ancestors who made us proud. Indeed, it's our duty to inculcate the same in our future generations, to make them world citizens. Today, we are thankful to our forefathers. The future generations should also be thankful to us. They should not blame us. Thus, we have a great responsibility on our shoulders to rebuild India by providing a perfect education to our children, which cannot be materialized without human values. When there is righteousness in heart, there is beauty in character. When there is beauty in character, there is harmony in home. When there is harmony in home, there is happiness in the nation. When there is happiness in the nation, there is peace in the world. With this, I conclude my talk. Please excuse me if I have talked anything unnecessary. I am extremely thankful to all the organizers and members of GETI, especially Mr. Pradeep Mal, for providing me this opportunity. I also extend my thanks to all the listeners, scholars, academicians, and educational policy makers for your patience hearing. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Jai Hind.
Good evening, sir, for that talk. It was very deep and something that everybody must think about. And surely everybody who listens to it will get enough material to ponder on. So thank you for that speech on your talk on the dynamics of Indian education from the ancient to the modern times, and especially for the emerging trends, perspectives, and human values. Good evening, everyone. And before we leave, I request you to watch our detox, part of our disruptive literacy movement by Global Dream, which has been an initiative by Dr. Sunita Gandhi since 2014. The whole idea is to ensure everyone's participation in helping India achieve total numeracy and literacy by a people's movement. So let each one teach one, and those of us who can teach more than one should be doing that to ensure that there's a level playing field as far as possible for all our brothers and sisters. And we have many talks on this. And for more information on this, for the ones that you would like to attend, please go to 740-840-1000. So good evening, everybody. Thank you. And good night. See you again tomorrow. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.